On Thursday, the State Department announced that they had finally chosen someone to head up their anti-propaganda division. Unfortunately, they picked someone from Fox News, and that person is now going to be in charge of the anti-propaganda efforts on behalf of the U.S. government, which is really ironic considering the fact that Fox News is essentially propaganda for the U.S. government, at least when we have a Republican president. But now one of their own gets to head up this division. The woman's name is Leah Gabriel. They had floated her name many months ago. We discussed it at the time. And to be honest, in terms of picking people from Fox News, they could have done much worse than picking Miss Gabriel. She spent a lot of time in the military. She did work on intelligence issues while she was in the military. She was a fighter pilot. She got a pretty impressive resume. And then at Fox News, she actually worked with Shepard Smith. She worked on his show. And Shepard Smith, as we all know, is one of the few people on Fox who is not afraid to call out this administration and to go against the entire network's narrative when he needs to. In fact, Ms. Gabriel herself on that program had criticized Donald Trump for his incredibly stupid idea and wasteful idea to hold that military parade in Washington, D.C. So again, they could have picked somebody much worse from the network to head up the anti-propaganda division, but nonetheless, they did pick somebody from Fox News who's now going to be in charge of combating propaganda here in the United States. But here's the real kicker here. This is not just a story about the third Fox News employee going to work for this administration. Ms. Gabriel follows in the footsteps of Heather Nauert and Bill Shine. It's not just about the incestuous relationship between this administration and Fox News. What it's really about is why in the hell do we even have to have this anti-propaganda department in the first place? And of course, immediately everybody says, well, because of all the Russian disinformation, the 2016 election, and all of that good stuff, right? I get that. I understand it. We know what happened. Sure. But here's the thing. Do we really need to be spending tens of millions of dollars every single year to combat another country spending a few $1,000s on Facebook and Twitter ads? Understand, please, that that is what this is about. They spent about $100,000, I think it was, promoting fake stories and memes on Facebook. And our response is to spend $40 million, which is how much this department is allocated right now, $40 million to combat $100,000 worth of Facebook ads. Somebody, please explain to me how that makes any sense whatsoever. Because here's the thing. We could take that $40 million and fight fake news in a different way. And here's how. About a year ago, this administration decided that we would not adopt the same standards that other countries were adopting that would essentially teach high school students how to identify fake news on the internet. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want to teach our children, and hell, a lot of adults too, to be honest, how to identify fake news to make them better people and to not fall for these online scams, these sensationalized stories that have no basis in reality. We could have spent that money on that instead of having this anti-propaganda division as if we're living in the novel 1984. But no, we opted out of that. Instead of choosing education, we're choosing belligerence. Yeah, we know that they bought those Facebook ads and that they wanted to influence the election and get people anti-Hillary Clinton because of their memes and articles that had no basis in reality. We know that happened. I'm not denying it. And yeah, that was an issue. However, if people in this country were just a tick smarter, none of that would have mattered. It wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever. And that's the problem we have to focus on. Because if another country is able to come in, spend $100,000 on Facebook ads and completely swing an election and change the course of the United States forever, then we kind of deserve it, right? If we're too stupid to identify fake news and $100,000 can swing a presidential election, yeah, I hate to say it, but we kind of deserve it at that point. We need to focus more on education. We can't just fire or censor all of these fake news sites. You know, we can't stifle the free speech of these people. But what we could do is do a better job educating the public on how to identify what's real and what's not, and that would eliminate the problem without stepping on anybody's constitutional rights and without wasting $40 million to have a former Fox News host tell us what's propaganda and what isn't. There's a new documentary out right now on Netflix called The Devil We Know. Now, this documentary tells the story of how DuPont, through the manufacture of Teflon, along with 3M, poisoned people all across the planet. Featured prominently in this film is our own Mike Papantonio, who actually handled the cases against DuPont for this C8 poison that was used in the manufacture of Teflon. This documentary, The Devil We Know, and you can find a link to it in the description of this video, tells the complete story. It says what DuPont did, what they knew, and it interviews Mike Papantonio. It pulls clips from the media to complete the story of just how corrupt and disgusting DuPont's actions were, and more importantly, how they managed to get this toxic chemicals into the bodies of roughly 98% of the population. Most of us right now are walking around with DuPont's poison inside our bodies, and we don't even know about it. And that's why this documentary, that again is available on Netflix right now, the link is below, The Devil We Know, tells you exactly how that DuPont poison got inside your body.